Animal Crossing: New Horizons. A wholesome social life simulator where players can live out their tropical island living dreams alongside a cast of animal companions of varying cuteness. But what's to stop this dream from becoming a nightmare? After all, if Nook Inc. ever decided to just leave, the entire island's transport, commerce, and even the fragile ecosystem it's all propping up would disappear overnight, leaving us all abandoned on our island with no food and absolutely no escape. So, who are we eating first? Well, that's where I, the Backseat developer, come in. So, in anticipation of this future island emergency that I just made up, let's look over all 391 villagers and rank every last one of them by who would be the most appropriate sacrifice for the morale and stomachs of everyone involved. But Backseat, how will we achieve such a feat? Well, luckily, I've concocted a 4-step system that is both mathematically perfect and, much more importantly, strips me of any personal responsibility if your favourite is served for dessert. So what are those 4 steps I keep going on about, and how on earth do each affect a villager's final score? Well, to find out, let's quickly go through them in order. It's incredibly important that our villager of choice isn't made of something that people don't want to eat. That's why our very first step gives each villager a starting score representing their suitability to a variety of diets. The highest of these scores are villagers with a food and drink aesthetic, since we'll be treating them as if they are indeed made out of these foodstuffs. Earning only half that number of points are the commonly farmed animal species, going by what Wikipedia define as livestock or poultry farmed for their meat. Going down even further still are animals not appearing on that Wikipedia list, and sitting down on a very unappetizing 2 points are these 3 species of household pets. But that's not even the absolute lowest, starting off with, well, 0 points are villagers who are just straight up made out of non-edible materials, like metal. There's going to be an enormous emotional weight in doing what needs to be done, so we don't really want the aesthetics of a villager to make us feel even worse while we're doing it. That's why at this step we'll be giving a 2x multiplier to any villager's score who looks plain and generic enough as to inspire no real emotion at all. As soon as a villager begins to look a little cute or creepy, either of these traits will reduce the villager's aesthetic multiplier until it's gone completely. It's the little things that make a villager that much more edible. So if a villager's name sounds like something that could be just a regular meal, like, "Oh, this is such a delicious Caesar salad," that honestly helps a lot, and villagers named this way will receive bonus points as a result. Finally, if we are going to be forced to eat someone, we at the very least want them to be free range. Therefore, if a villager has a more active personality type, they'll receive a small bonus to their score, while those with a less active personality type will get the opposite. So that's the entire process explained, and I hope you can see I really have your tummy's best interest at heart. So, to thank me, I'd recommend from the YouTube menu, liking this video, and if you're feeling like a little bit of a treat, hitting that subscribe button. Well, let's not waste any more time and see just how many absolute snacks your island is currently home to. So let's start with the lowest scoring and most unappetizing folks. But how low could a villager possibly score using our system? Well, All the way down here, without a single point to their name, we find Sprocket and Ribbot, as well as the equally robotic battleship-shaped Dell. And while Stitches may be stuffed, you certainly wouldn't be if you ate him. Honestly, pretty bad nutritional value in this group all round. Moving up to an astronomically high 1 point now, we get to villagers who you could technically consume, but would have absolutely no reason to. While the cuteness of B speaks for itself, the, freshness of whatever is lurking underneath Lucky's bandages is a concern, and makes me seriously doubt he's still on the right side of his use-by date. Scoring 2 points, we have a dozen household pets, as well as the inedible but sort of food named Coco. To give a few other villagers a special shout out, I think Kiki is my sleep paralysis demon, Mary, Goldie and Rosie are absolutely adorable. If you want to maintain a healthy stomach, I'd advise against eating this much makeup. And finally, the generous coating of sweat that's pretty much a guarantee from a name like that makes this lad a hard pass from me. By the time we get to those scoring 3 points, we start to see a few animals who aren't household pets making an appearance. This trio of kangaroos score very low due to their little baby companions. The entire aura that Prince gives off sets off my fight or flight reflex, and absolutely everything about ingesting the meat of Raddle feels like an enormous health and safety risk, and so I'm just going to leave him to isolate over there and get the heck out of here. Still very low scoring, and firmly in off-menu territory, we start to see the first appearances of gorillas, koalas, penguins, and one particularly cute octopus who must be protected at all costs. So, who else have we got? Well, if I am going to be haunted at the foot of my bed by the spectre of whichever villager I eat, I'd rather it not be Ricky. And finally, these two perverts look like they'd enjoy being eaten, which is a level of intimacy I'm honestly not ready for. Lounging around in the still very unappetizing 5s, we have some of the highest scoring pets and lowest scoring of the other animals. Not much of note down here, except that fan favourite Rold's placement pretty much ensures he can continue his crunches without becoming brunches. A whole 17% of the game's villagers reside in this fairly undelicious group, including fan favourite Eagle Apollo and Moose Eric, as well as a literal baby. Has a steak ever placed a dark curse upon you mid-meal? Me neither. Probably best to keep it that way. And trying to decipher the emotion on Henry's face is an enigma modern science has yet to crack. So until I know what I'm dealing with, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep my distance. The calm before the storm, just 24 villagers scored 7, and even fewer of them are of any note. Unless one of them is your favourite villager, in which case, they're just so interesting. Eight was not only the most common score for a villager to receive, but also the average score across the entire cast of characters. That being said, we are still south of where I would consider a villager a valid meal. For example, Kashmir just looks atrociously ill. Still, don't eat makeup, seriously. Naomi's face kind of looks like somebody already got to her first. And finally, if you messed up even just a little bit when trying to eat Lucha, you just know he's going to judge you for it. And I just can't work under that kind of pressure. Just managing to remain in single digits and barely staying off the menu, we have our highest scoring dog, Cherry, mostly up here thanks to her perfectly food-themed name. We finally made it to the 10s, and with 70% of all villagers scoring a 9 or below, anyone seen from now on is a serious contender for sacrifice should push come to starvation. including the King of Guilt himself, Dom, and Ruby, who is just immensely cursed. We also have our highest scoring pet villager, somehow getting all the way up here from 2 points, a red, round, only slightly creepy apple. Only 4 villagers live here in the 11s, all with vaguely foodie names, including Cherry, but spelt wrong this time, and Annie Cotty, which isn't actually any kind of food, but hey, it sounds delicious. Ooh, we're now firmly getting into the territory of tingling our taste buds, with a load of rabbits, chickens, sheep, and ducks making up the numbers. There are even 3 goats in this group, and a whole 2 of them are actually safe for work. Outstanding. 6 villagers, 2/3 of them squirrels, and all of them food named in some way. Also, I didn't really expect any of the gorillas to be this high up the list, but I guess if anyone could do it, it's superhero and part-time leaf vegetable Rocket. Just an absolute pair of pals living it up in the 14s. Cow Stew and a pig who goes by a couple of different English names, with both being at least decently food related. Really picking up the pace now as we scream towards the top 10, 15 was actually a fairly difficult number to hit mathematically. So all 11 of the villagers who found their way here got here the exact same way, by scoring 12 points and then having a peppy or jock personality and getting that sweet 25% bonus. On the doorstep of greatness, or at least some kind of greater, we have the 11 villagers who didn't quite make it into the top 10 by scoring 16 points. As you'd expect this high up, there are a lot of pretty inoffensive looking livestock, as well as by far the 2 most normal looking and highest scoring goats. Well, that's the vast majority of the villagers covered, and I hope you are all keeping score to see where your personal faves fell. And if you haven't seen your personal favourite yet, then I may have some very distressing news. Oh my goodness, we're home at last. It's time for some backseat game development. So enough discussing all these things we don't want to put down our throat, let's get to the good part and finally answer the question Nintendo's too afraid to. Who is the most edible villager in Animal Crossing New Horizons? The title of 10th most tasty, like all 10 spots on this list, is able to be held by more than one villager, providing they had the exact same score. Bagging this particular spot is not 1, not 2, but 3 villagers. But who makes up this tasty trio? Well done, you 3. All of these livestock lads didn't get off to a great start, with their aesthetics only getting them a 1.5 times multiplier. But those 12 points were all they needed, and with a +5 for their perfect foodie names, they all rocketed up to 17 points and bagged joint 10th place. But there's no need to share the 9th spot. We've only got one villager taking this title home, scoring 18 points and also being the first villager we've seen so far, belonging to a very special group you may have forgotten about. It's our first food boy, Zucker, whose appearance is based on takoyaki, a Japanese ball-shaped snack with an octopus filling. He could have been riding high with a score in the 20s, but his lazy personality held him back from his potential and put him firmly in 9th place. The next spot is held by a feminine duo who both scored 18.75 points. But who are these 2 very precisely scored ladies? It's our first and only drink-themed villager, Tia, and a somewhat adorable duck, Partey. This food and drink combo make a compelling argument to stick around at number 8 and just make a meal of it. But we're not in the business of leaving a job unfinished, so let's press on to a trio of livestock, all different species, who all found themselves scoring a mouth-watering 20 points apiece. But who makes up this enigmatic three? These three right here are the perfect example of my rule that a more plainly designed villager scores higher in edibility. No gimmicks required here, no food-based names, just a group of delicious animals living in the moment right before ending up on my plate. The sixth most succulent villager is another extremely narrow victory. So, who is this particularly finger-licking local? It's Meringue. While at first glance this cake-faced lass seems like she belongs higher up on the list, a combination of cuteness, her imperfectly spelled name, and her normal type personality keep her from rising too high and locked down to a 20.25 score. We are now in the top 5, and competition to be eaten is getting quite fierce. But who exactly do we have next? It's the seemingly pre-grilled bacon-named Rasher and sheep Frita, who honestly has too many food references in her appearance, name, and speech to be able to go through them all. Needless to say, this pair deserves their shared spot as the 5th most delicious. The 4th most flavoursome is also a title held by 2 villagers at once, both scoring just a tiny amount more than the previous pair, but who be these 2? Now, I know what you're thinking, these 2 seem a lot less appetising than our previous pair, and you're not wrong. However, both of their peppy personalities gives them that 25% edge which propels their scores just far enough to get them both into joint 4th place. 3rd place. If you haven't seen your favourite villager by now, then be concerned, because we are now in the range of the utterly delicious. Show yourselves, you delectable devils. It's the tomato duck ketchup and the only bovine to appear in every Animal Crossing game, Patty. Now, ketchup may be a point of contention because she's just so dang cute. But with her big bonuses in literally every other step of the process, her edibility can't be denied. Ketchup, I am so sorry. Patty, Second place is held by a single tasty individual who has also appeared in every game in the series, except Pocket Camp. Who invited Pocket Camp? But who is this particularly round-headed friend who somehow managed to score an incredible 31.25 points? Yes, it's Tangy, a kitty-shaped orange that is absolutely vegan, I promise. Please ignore the whole sentience thing. Despite this astronomical score, it's pretty clear there's still some room for improvement. Tangy's bobbly orange skin prevented it from getting a perfect score multiplier, and its name only got a single bonus point, not being a food item directly. Well, then I guess there is only one place to go from here. Up. It's time. We're finally here. We will shortly be in the presence of Animal Crossing's #1 most edible villager. More edible than a gigantic orange, more edible than a rhino made out of dessert, and yes, more edible than barreled. Who is the #1 most edible villager in Animal Crossing New Horizons? It's the cheesy lad himself, Cheddar, storming to #1 with an impressive 35 points on the Edibility Index. But what makes this fella particularly flavourful? First, being cheese to the core, he receives all the points that come with being a food item. And let's not forget his beautifully bland and forgettable face that looks like it was drawn by a 5-year-old. These two factors alone are enough to secure the top spot, but with a name that comes so close to being a perfectly food-appropriate word, his final score rounds itself up quite beautifully to 35 points. So that's the lot. Let me know how many points your island scored by adding together all your villagers, especially if it's above the average score of 80 or, dare I dream, over 100. Because it's just always a good idea to be prepared. Thanks for watching this episode of Backseat Game Development. If you enjoyed this video by some miracle, why not subscribe and stick around? I also tweet good at Backseat Game Dev. Thanks once again, and I'll see you next time.